Good morning, Chameleon Wranglers. Welcome to this wonderful Wednesday morning, and we're going to get it started off right. And that means we're going to get started off with a little bit of chameleon goodness. Well, I am very excited because today I am starting on my Arboreal L enclosure. This is from the Chameleon Academy line at Custom Reptile Habitats. These are the enclosures that I designed, they're making, and it's called the Chameleon Academy Arboreal line of enclosures, and this is the L model that I'm going to be building today. The one behind me, that's the XL, and the differences behind these is the XL has this little viewing window here so you can view the forest floor. The L model has this completely covered here, and so that gives you more depth for your soil. And the reason why I have this is because I want to do so much gardening in there. If you have never seen a pothos planted in the soil, in the ground, you would be amazed at the monster that they become. And so that is the kind of gardening that I want to do inside these enclosures. And we're going to be doing that in this enclosure. And I cannot wait to show you the growth of the pothos that I'm going to put in the ground. A lot of work just to show you a pothos, but it's amazing how big these things get. So when you get an Arboreal L enclosure and put it together, it is up to you to decide, are you going to waterproof it? What are you going to do for drainage? And this is something that we have to decide with every single cage or setup that we put together. We are putting in misting, fogging, dripping, all sorts of stuff, and all of that water has to go somewhere. If we have a soil floor, then that soil floor has a huge danger of being saturated with water if we don't give that water a place to go. And so this whole thing is about, first of all, let's give it a place to go. And second of all, let's make sure that it only goes in that one place that we have planned. Now, the wonderful thing about this Arboreal L enclosure is that Custom Reptile Habitats has an option for you to say, I want to drain. And if you choose that option, then your enclosure will come with a hole already drilled for you to put in a drain that looks something like that. And then you have it sitting over something that has a bucket or something. If you get the stand from Custom Reptile Habitats, then they will drill a hole in the stand as well. So you just put the enclosure on top of the stand, the holes line up, it's easy for you. And luckily, I have that done in this enclosure that I have here right now. Now you're saying, Bill, that's all great when you have the luxury of dealing with a Custom Reptile Habitats enclosure, but what if I have to figure it out some other way? Simple. Just get one of these things off of Amazon. I mean, this is a 2-inch drain, coming 3-inch. They're very, very easy. It's relatively inexpensive. The challenge a little bit is making the holes. For that, you need a hole saw, and this just plugs into your electronic or electric screwdriver, and you just now, keep in mind, the hole that you drill in your enclosure at the bottom of your enclosure needs to be only as big as this, what do we call it, a shank? This threaded area here. If you have it sitting on a stand, the hole in the stand needs to be big enough so you can turn all of this. That is why I will have a 2-inch hole for this particular drain. And then I'll do a 3-inch hole. This is a 3-inch hole saw for the stand underneath it. And so when this is placed in the enclosure, it comes down below the enclosure into the stand. I will have room to do this twisting and have all of this this mounting hardware be able to go in tight and really lock it down. The challenge, it's relatively simple to do that. Just make sure that it all lines up and you're ready to do it. These hole saws, admittedly, are not cheap, but I don't know how you would do it otherwise if you really want to do it well. Now, a little hint. I know it is tempting to just go put the enclosure on top of the stand and just take your hole saw and just drill all the way down or all the way up to make sure it all lines up. That's a great thought, but just remember, this thing guides the hole saw. Make sure that it has a hole to go through. I think you're going to be okay if you take a drill and you drill it down through both of those, just this drill bit. Because if you say you drill your first 2-inch hole all the way through, it is going to be absolutely miserable trying to get this 3-inch hole in there, because there's going to be nothing to hold this saw in place as it's going back and forth all the way like this. And don't ask me how I know this, but yeah, okay, I did it, and it was a pain in the butt. So you want to make sure that you don't try to do a 3-inch hole on an existing 2-inch hole. I mean, it's not impossible. It's just you're going to be making up words that you can't say around your kids. Okay, so say I've got that. I've got my arboreal enclosure. I've got my holes. Now I want to make sure that the water only goes to this wonderful drain. And for that, I need to silicone in the edges of the enclosure on the inside. I want to make sure that the water cannot get through the seams. To do this, I'm going to be using 100% silicone. I just go to Amazon or any place and get aquarium sealant. Yeah, you can buy this at Custom Reptile Habitats, but you just get it off of Amazon. It's very, very easy. But make sure that it is this, this 100% silicone aquarium sealant, that there's nothing added in. If you go to Home Depot, you're going to find industrial type things that are meant for your house, and they have certain additives in it that inhibit mold and are very useful if you're using this to seal things up on your house. But when you want to seal it up with living creatures, it's not so good. So make sure it's 100% silicone, aquarium sealant, something suitable for fish. And it's very easy to find. It'll be, you can find any number of these things on good old Amazon. Now, make sure. Okay. Let me see. Hang tight. Be careful. Be careful. Warning. Warning. Allow me to get this back here. Yes. Work into the magic. The magic trick. Okay. If you go on and you see things like this, if this is what it looks like when you're buying the aquarium sealant, make sure you have the caulking gun type thing that this goes into, because you need a special gun to make this cartridge work. So if you don't have that gun, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll find a picture. I'll put it up. I don't have one here. Then you get something that looks like this, and this is something that you can squeeze by hand. So don't buy this and then say, hey, what do I do with it? How do I make this work? So, little tricks of the trade. Okay, now when we want to seal the inside of the enclosure, what we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to get a little bowl of water and some paper towels, because I'm going to be using my finger to smooth out the bead of silicone. I've seen some places where they put a little dish soap in the water, and I haven't tried that yet. It sounds interesting. The dish soap would actually, that sounds interesting, but I haven't tried it yet, so I can't personally recommend it, but it sounds like it would work even better. The first thing we're going to do is put a little bead of silicone around the seams, around the bottom. You've got your floor panel, and so around the bottom there, but you're also going to go up the sides, the seam of the sides, because say if your substrate is 12 inches deep, which on this one, yes, it absolutely will be. You want to go up the side so it doesn't, the water doesn't leak out. So just understand your specific design as to where you need it to be waterproof. Now, when I am putting a bead of silicone down, more is not better. It's just more. And so you want to put a moderate silicone bead down there. I've done this before where I have just put gobs of silicone. I'm going to waterproof this thing. And to my chagrin and surprise and non-amusement, it didn't work very well. And it's amazing how just doing a moderate bead and putting it across your finger works wonderfully. The way I do it is I put down a moderate bead of silicone across the seam that I'm trying to waterproof. I get my finger, I wet it, and then I gently but firmly run my finger across the bead of silicone and push it into the crevice. When enough silicone builds up on my finger that it's ruining my nice smooth silicone and getting all over the sides, take the paper towel, wipe off the excess on my finger, put my finger in the water again, and I go back. And so what you want to do is do that nice little smoothing out the silicone bead all around the bottom and up the sides. And when you're done, I put a fan in there to help it dry. You just got to let it sit and let all those fumes evaporate. Make sure that you do this in a well-ventilated area. The silicone fumes are not nice. And well-ventilated area, of course, there's no animals inside this enclosure. I put a fan inside the enclosure and just let it run. If possible, I have the windows down. And this enclosure here, I'm actually going to move it in front of a window and just let it run. I generally let my enclosures run like this for a couple of days just to get all of those fumes out of there. Be patient with this. Make sure you do it right. Once you have that drain in there, once you have the bottom siliconed, you're ready to put in your soil and get planting. So let the fun begin. Now, what if you have other types of cages and you want to put in a drainage tray? That is actually somewhat easy. There is one company, Dragon Strand, that's my company, that makes molded fitted drainage trays for the 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage footprint. So you can buy them pre-made. And this one is specifically made for the cages. It has the right heights to lift the cage out of the water and give some support in the middle and all those wonderful things. Now it is a little costly. And so if you want to do a more DIY, you can go find a tray that fits your cage's footprint. And that'll change whether you have the 2x2 or a 3 foot by 18 inch footprint. Generally speaking, I look for things like replacement dog crate trays, and it's amazing how many sizes you find that will fit that. You're likely not to find a perfect fit, but you just find one that works well enough. Then you put something in the bottom to make sure that the cage is lifted up off of the wastewater that's under there. I've used PVC pipes before. Obviously, the Dragon Strand has its own raised surfaces molded into the tray itself. And if you've got a 3D printer, you can always make them out of your 3D printing stuff, which I have done as well. Now, once you have that drainage tray, you have the option of either just leaving it like that, and I have that in most of my cages, and you get the water out by just getting this wet dry vac. I use the Home Depot bucket head, which is a cute little wet dry vac that goes over a 5-gallon bucket. And I just go around and sucking up the water using this wet dry vac, and that works really well. The advantage to that is these cages are totally mobile and I can just go wherever they go. Now, if you want to be a little bit more sophisticated and have a gravity drain in it, take a look at this 1/4 inch tubing, the kind of stuff that you use for your misting systems, and which is the same stuff that you use for the drip systems for your garden. You'll find these at your home improvement stores, and you will find little attachments like this. This is the thing that you put the 1/4 inch tubing on, and so you can connect lengths of tubing. Now you can find these ones that have the inputs on both sides, and ideally you can find one that has this ridge in the middle. You can see where I'm going with this. You drill a hole in the side of your drainage tray that allows this to be pushed through, and then you use crazy glue to glue it on, and you use silicone to seal it. Just make sure you get that hole watertight. And then you can put your 1/4-inch tubing on, and that 1/4-inch tubing can go to a bucket. Now, I recommend putting on a valve on it so you can shut it off when you take the bucket to go dump it. But that's a very easy way to make a gravity drain on any drainage tray that you find out there and you buy for whatever use it was meant for. You can generally find a way to put one of these things on and get the water out of there. Now, some of you are saying, but wait a minute, you're going to have a little layer of water there that's not going to be able to get through this. And you're right. This is not a perfect solution. I am sure you can take a look at the drainage tray that you have, and you can come up with a way to make a perfect solution so it would get everything out. Maybe then we'll make that a 3D printed project. I think that's a great thing. That's a great product to do. I'm going to talk to Mikey Ben, and we're going to make a drain that you can attach to any sort of drainage tray that you buy that allow you to get water from the bottom, so you don't have this little layer of water. But right now, we don't have that, so you can use this little bulkhead thing here, and that is how I would do drainage. So that is the status. We're going to wait till this Arboreal L enclosure is done drying with the silicone, and then the soil goes in, and I can't wait for that. I have boxes and boxes of terra firma from the Bio Dude, and yes, I have made good on that coupon code, Chameleon10. It works for me too, and we were able to get a whole lot of that soil. I can tell you in this soil, I am going to have a raging isopod farm in there, and that's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. And so I am going to prepare for the plants and the branches, which is what we're going to do next. And I'm going to send you off to do whatever you do during the day in between the important chameleon milestones of your life. And I'm going to go live more chameleon life so we can have a fun vlog tomorrow morning. Take care of yourself. Be excellent to each other. I'll see you the next time.